Greetings, everyone. It is Being Brown at Work live. Your girl, Linda. And every Tuesday I say this favorite time of the week. I absolutely love this time I spend online with these fabulous women. And, I have another one. I just so blessed that I have various people that have either been introduced to me or I've met throughout various parts of my conferences or things that I do for work, or they're become part of my network. And this fabulous young woman that you see right now, I was blessed to get introduced to, and she's going to talk to us about the tech space. And when I read her bio, you'll completely understand what I mean. Absolutely fabulous. Brianna McCullough is an authoritative force, conquering dynamic duality as an infrastructure program manager at Google and founder of the lifestyle empowerment brand, Bree Limitless. In her daily mission to diversify the engineering industry, the innovation leader and Detroit, Michigan native resiliently shares her voice and vision for inclusivity across STEM fields, simultaneously serving youth and fellow millennials with mentorship and enthusiastic encouragement to live life without limits. Brianna's dedicated discipline and knowledge has led her to captivate audiences at Google Developers Fest, Ernst& Young, Afrotech, and so many more. See, that's why I had to have her on the show. Her engineering milestones earned her the Minnesota Pioneer Women in Tech Award in 2017. She's the graduate of Michigan State and a current MBA candidate at the University of Southern California. Yes, USC. Yes. As you can see, she got her USC colors on right now.
I
Yes.
do.
Yes. Brianna, welcome to Being Brown at Work Live.
Thank you so much, Linda, for having me. I'm so excited to be here, so excited to share any wisdom, knowledge, any consideration I can. And I'm just thankful. I'm so excited to be here. Love my brown girls. Obviously, I'm a brown girl. So
Absolutely. And we're, fellow brown girls in STEM, right? And so, what you and I talked about when we had our discovery call before this live is the need for more of us to talk about what's possible in the STEM field for Black and brown girls. So do you want me to call you Bree or Brianna? Which one do you?
Bree. Most people refer to me as
Bree. Excellent.
Yeah.
So Bree, what led you into the STEM field?
Oh, I love telling this story because I feel like it gives a lot of hope to other people seeking to get to where I am. So I always started off as I stumbled into this field, right? I feel like I grew up very curious. I've always been a super curious person. You can ask anybody, I'm always asking a ton of questions. And so when I went to college, I majored in human biology. I wanted to be a doctor. So yes, so I've always knew STEM was it. So just to preface it with that. But I thought I'd be on the other side of it. I thought I'd be doing the medical school thing. And at this point in time, I would be a resident by now if I had stuck with it. But I did an internship at that time in Washington, D.C. at Georgetown Lombardi Cancer Center. And they're one of the only cancer systems with a focus on pancreatic cancer, which is one of the most deadly cancers you can have. So I got admitted to that program, and it was an extremely prestigious program. And during my time there, I had reoccurring thoughts of is this really something, I want to do with the rest of my life? That's why I always tell people, internships tell you one of two things. They either tell you what you don't want to do, or they tell you what you do want to do. So they're valuable.
Absolutely.
They are valuable no matter. And that's the fun of interning, is that after 3 months or whatever the time period is, you get a choice to say, I love this, or this is not for me. And so when I was at that internship, I was more curious. So they were building CyberKnife radiation at the time, which is one of the more aggressive treatments for pancreatic cancer. And at the time, I was more interested in what the engineers were doing than
Mm.
than the patient analysis and lab work, which is what we were focused on.
Okay.
And that, to me, I always tell people to focus on how you feel in given moments. Focus on
Yes.
the things that capture your attention, because they usually lead you into that career mindset. And I got back home from Washington, D.C., and right after that, I changed my major to computer science.
Oh, wow. And look at you today.
I
Look at you
know.
today. Yes, in the tech industry, doing your thing and
Yeah.
letting other Black and brown girls know what's possible. So Brianna, Bree, excuse me. Um, as we look into the tech industry as a whole, I mean, there's and it's not special to the industry. Let's just make that clear. There's not as much representation of us across various industries. But in particular, the tech field seems to be even more less representation. You know, we all know what's possible in our careers, and it's a lot of it is believing in yourself. But from your experience as a young person, now you've been in it for a number of years, is there something that in particular stands out to you that you would say right now to a young Black or brown girl that's either in school or maybe just starting their career, and they're saying, you know what, wow, I don't think I can do that tech industry thing. I don't think I can do it. Is there something that you would say to them that says, yeah, 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 you can?
Oh, that's a great question. I love that. I love that for a lot of reasons. One is because we are conditioned as women to believe, and Black women specifically, that we can't do hard things, right? So I
Yes.
would say one of the most important things to understand is that you can do hard things. So what we need to ask ourselves, are we saying that we don't want to do this anymore because it's hard? Right? Because I'm at that point in my MBA program where I'm like, this is a lot of work. I'm working full time. Like, I have a lot going on, and my job is
Yeah.
demanding. And so I've had to step back even now and ask myself, like, am I saying that
Mm.
because I don't want an MBA, which is not true, because I worked
Hmm.
really hard. And that's not true. I'm saying that because things have gotten hard. Um,
Yes.
and I think one of the biggest things that I encourage young Black and brown women to ask themselves is this hard for me? Is that why I'm straying away? Or am I not passionate about it anymore? And that's
Mm.
right. Like,
Yes.
it's, again, understanding what you do and do not like is super important, but having tenacity is also just as important.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely, Brie. Absolutely. And I share that. I mean, I know, and that's the thing. A lot of times we as women, and we as Black and brown women won't raise our hand if we think we're not one, no, not even 100%, 200%, 500% prepared and ready to be perfect, because that's another issue we have, to
Mhm,
be perfect in that role.
mhm,
We also, I think, to your point, really stray away from challenging ourselves, stretching ourselves, right? I mean, I know when I got my mechanical engineering degree years and years ago at Carnegie Mellon, there were not, I mean, I think it might have been less than 2% of Black people on that campus, you
mhm.
know, and it could have been easy for me and some of my other fellow classmates to say, wow, this is hard, so the STEM thing may not be for me. This
Mhm.
technical field may not be for me. And to your point, is that is that the real answer? Or is it, hey, build that resilience, which is what I loved about your bio, how you resiliently share your voice.
Mhm.
Build that resilience, that tenacity to do what's difficult, because 9 times out of 10, you can.
Yep.
It's believing in yourself, right? It's
100.
totally believing in yourself. And
Yes.
there, I don't and share a little bit more, because I don't think there's a nuance around the tech industry per se.
Mhm.
Do you think that there's any special nuances around that excludes us?
I don't feel like there are nuances. I wouldn't say that, but I will say that there's a significant, so tech involves, like, computer science. When you think of
Yeah,
college computer science, it
yeah,
involves what? Science, math,
yeah.
lots of math,
Lots of
lots
math.
of logic, lots of computer science algorithms and things like that. And what are the classes, if you can, back in college, that people were just like, oh, you're skipping, or you don't want to go, or that
Yeah,
you avoided? Like, what are the classes that you avoided when you were in college?
Yeah.
Science, math, any kind of like, you know, anything that involved, you know, STEM, people were trying to avoid. Like, they didn't
Hmm.
want that on their
Yeah.
schedules. They were choosing majors that didn't involve, you know, like there's a base level, you know, your prerequisites that you have to
Sure, sure,
complete.
sure.
After that, people were straying away from STEM simply
That's
because they
true.
were just like, oh, statistics, this is going to be hard. And I want to be honest, like, I failed statistics twice in college. Okay. I had to take it for a third time. And it's the
Wow.
class
Wow.
in college that I failed. And not only did I fail it once, but I failed it twice. And
Hmm.
so thinking about that, I could have easily been like, okay, this is not for me. I don't get it.
Yeah.
And I'm reading, you know what now, Linda? I'm in statistics again in my MBA program.
Boom.
I just, you know, we can't stray away from challenges,
We cannot. We cannot.
because they're
That's
going
right.
to represent themselves in our lives.
They
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm so glad you shared that because that's one thing. You could have taken, and I talk about this often. You could have taken that failure because girl, my issue was thermodynamics. How about that? That was okay. And I can remember it, and I've been out of school for over 30 years. So my issue was thermo. And you could have taken that failure and decided that your career, your long-term aspirations of being in the tech field was just not possible for you, rather than learning from that and growing. And even Esperanza here that's listening to us, she says, thank you for sharing your honest
Yeah.
experience. Because that, I mean, that's real. But um, look how much you've grown and probably built on that, which is why you're at USC today
Yeah.
and working at Google. I
Mhm.
mean, seriously, you've built that muscle for you to be able to challenge yourself with this. I don't know how you do it, crazy schedule, and I'm sure you're performing very, very well. And that's what I think, we as women need to really um, allow ourselves, really need to claim for ourselves.
And it's what
So
we need
Bru
to
go
hear
ahead.
too, right?
Yes.
Like, being
Yeah.
honest, as to Esperanza's point, like, it's what we need to hear, because usually we wait until we've succeeded. Like, I would have told this story after I got out of my MBA program, right? Like, I struggled the entire way through. Like, I had a hard time, whatever. But it's just like, sometimes you need to hear, hey, I'm in the trenches right now. Like, I'm having a hard time right now. Like,
Yes.
and we need that so that we can build that camaraderie, so that other people feel comfortable enough to say, I'm having a hard time. And
Yes.
that's okay.
Oh my gosh, Brie, I love that so much because it is okay.
Yes.
And there's so much growth out of the struggle, and to
Mhm.
have and to know that you're not alone, and that there's no such thing as only doing this thing, the STEM career, in a perfect fashion. You
Yeah.
may fail class. You may make a statistical mistake on some data that you're presenting. That's going to happen. Absolutely, it's going to.
And as
But
my
it
mom
doesn't.
would say, you won't be the first and you won't be the last.
Exactly. And it won't fully define you,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't have to define you. It doesn't have to write your story. So Bree, why don't you share with me, because I love this when we talked in a discovery call, your belief that truly setting yourself apart for the tech space is around traditional education. Share your thoughts on that. Yes.
Yeah, I think we started off the conversation in about boot camps, right? And I want to be very clear when I say I think boot camps are a great way to break into tech, right? They are a great way to get into the technology space. They're a great way to learn. They're a great way to build. And one of the first questions I ask people are, what do you want to build, right? Like, when you want to get into tech, it's not about what language to learn. It's not about, when people ask me those questions, I always come back and say, what is it that you want to build? What is
Build.
the problem you
Mm.
are trying to solve? And
Ah,
then I can tell you what avenue you should take. But I think that somewhere in the mix, we have gotten the impression that boot camps are a substitute for traditional education. And I want to be
mm.
clear when I say that might be the case for the others, but for Black and Brown women and people in general today, that is not the case. And
Yeah.
trying to substitute a boot camp for traditional education, well, one, it'll limit your ability to grow, right? Because you're learning such a specialized skill, right? You're learning how to use Python, or you're learning how to use JavaScript, or all these languages to traditionally take up a software engineering role.
Mm-hmm.
What if you decide you don't like that? What if you want
Oh, yes.
to, then what? Can you go into a product with a boot camp? Probably not. Can you go on a program? I'm sure there are people who have done it and who will defy the odds, but there's
Sure.
always edge cases. You learn that in engineering. There's edge cases for everything.
Sure.
Degree, right? So it's like, I really encourage people to evaluate, like, is software engineering going to be your end all be all? Go into a boot camp, right? But are you going to take that boot camp and then get into an organization that'll pay for you to go back to school? Yes. And are you going to go back to school and try to figure it out? Yes, you should. So it is an avenue, but it's not the only avenue, and it should not be the only consideration, especially for us, because a lot of the time we get stuck on the floor. I know way more people in entry-level positions of color than anything. Like, I don't know a ton of people in senior level. I don't know.
Wow. Wow.
And I think a lot, and that has nothing, because some of these people do have traditional.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But a lot of the time it comes down to the fact that we are not as all the time as educated. We're not as, it's already hard for us, even when we are educated.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Doing a 12-week boot camp is never going to replace traditional education. It's never going to replace traditional education.
Oh my gosh. To me, see, that's wisdom in itself, because I've heard other people making that statement. Oh, I'll just go do this boot camp for X amount of time. Oh, I'll just go do this quick whatever. Fix. Yes, this quick fix or this quick study, or I'll go do this. And then I'm sure that's going to get me into the Facebooks of the world, or the Microsofts of the world, or, whatever it is. And then I'm just going to grow from there. When reality is traditional education, and it's such what you said a few minutes ago, and I should have stopped you when you said it, when you talked about the fact that traditional education allows you to grow, allows you to make sure that you can move and be transient and have flexibility. Pardon me?
Autonomy. It gives you autonomy.
That's the word. That's the word. It was beautiful when you said, because it does. Yeah. And there's power in autonomy, right? There's so much power in autonomy that traditional education can give you, and make sure that you're rooted and completely prepared to be successful in this space. And of course, you got to show up and perform. I mean, that's
100%.
That's with anything else. But and then, like you said, to be able to get into a company, perform, and then they pay for your higher education beyond. That's what happened with me. That's how I got my MBA. Similar to you. I had a company that's, I performed, they saw something in me, and they paid for that so that I would be prepared to grow. That's some valuable experience and knowledge that you're sharing, Bree. And I'm so glad I had you on, because there's so many young people. I mean, tech is sexy, right? And so it's right now. It's so sexy.
It is the big thing popping right now.
It's the big thing popping, and everybody wants to get in the tech industry. And unfortunately, they're trying to do it the quick and easy fix way, and then get frustrated when they don't see any movement, traction, or longevity.
I know people who have undergrad degrees and decided to go back to a boot camp and went, right? And they have a full-time job already. They have their undergrad, and went and literally were just like, I can't wait to, like, I hate this. I can't wait till it's over. I've already come to it. And decided to drop. Like, it is just, I think, because it's so sexy, and I think the sexiest part of it, honestly, right, is the money, the compensation that you receive. That's what people are after. But I don't know if people understand that there are so many other things that you can do and make money and do. Like, you don't have to be like, tie yourself to that. And we want you to come, please, join the industry. But I would never limit someone to the tech industry for money, because the reality is there are so many other industries. It might be a little bit harder, but there are so many other industries where you can make a lot of money.
And your point, I think, is so valid, Bree, because you've got, I think I've always been the person that I do what I love. You said that earlier, right? You do what you love, what passion, what drives you, the money comes. But if you go just for the money, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's a lot of longevity in that. You know, somebody might be listening and saying, "Yeah, Linda, okay, whatever. As I go to the bank for these 5 years, I'll,"
Mhm.
you know. But I mean, that's their individual choice. But I hear what you're saying. You've got to love what you do day in and day out, because the industry, at least from a distance, is no joke. So it's not like it's an easy industry to work in, you
Mhm.
know, and you're just going to collect all the coins and because it's super easy. So you got to be committed. You got to love it, right?
And I will also say that I will never forfeit. Like, I know what it is like growing up in hard times and needing to get off to college, needing to do something quick to make money, right? Like, and not wanting to wait. But what I'm saying is that when you get there and you get, you make your go to the boot camp, whatever, don't forget to go back, right?
Yeah.
And get that traditional
Get
education.
that
Don't
degree.
forget,
Yes.
please never forfeit yourself the right to education, because it is the one thing that people cannot take away from you.
Oh my gosh, Bree. Okay, can you say that one more time?
Never
Seriously.
forfeit yourself the right to a traditional education, because it
Yeah.
is the one thing people cannot take away from you.
It is the one thing. It
Yeah.
is the one thing. That sounds old school, I know, to some people, but it is so real.
Mhm.
There's nothing old school about it. It's real. Bree, this has been phenomenal. We're about to wrap up our time here. Is there anything, I mean, I can't even express how much I appreciate you taking time out of your extremely busy schedule in the middle of your afternoon because you're on the West Coast and yeah, and sharing because you'll hang up here and go back to work and probably go have
Yeah.
to go to class and everything else. But I'd love to give you some time as we wrap this session. You know, is there any other parting words that you want to share with maybe some others that are like you know, been in the tech industry, young, they've got their career going, they're trying to understand how do they get that next level of the rung on the ladder, or they're listening to you and they're in undergrad or grad school and they want to be successful. They just don't want to take a misstep. Anything you want to share?
Ooh, there are two things I want to share, right? And I can't even remember. She's a black woman. She's over Black Backstage Capital. She's a VC, but she
Ah,
says a quote that sticks with me to this day. It says, "Be who you are, so that the people looking for you can find you." And that is one, right? Like, through this life, like in career, in life in general, make sure that you're staying true to who you are and what you value, so that the opportunities that are looking for you, the people that are looking for you, the things that are looking for you can find you. And another thing I will say is that hard work and tenacity do pay off in the end. It may seem
mm,
hard. It's hard for me. Like, it's still hard for me, but I think understanding when your time is up is just as valuable. I think Drake has a favorite quote, and he says, "As soon as I'm done having fun with it, I'll be done with it." And I really
ah,
believe that as soon as I'm done, like as soon as I feel like, all right, this is the end of the road for me, I'm gonna move on and do something else. And I encourage everyone to have the same mindset. Like, do what makes you happy, and when that thing no longer makes you happy, do not be afraid to pivot into what
yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, two beautiful things. I have nothing else to say. Both of those, that quote you shared and that. Bree, thank you so much. It has been an honor to have you on Being Brown at Work Live. Look, if you're listening to this on a replay, first of all, thank you, those of you who joined us live. I really appreciate it. And if you're listening to this on a replay, would love to hear comments, what your thoughts were, what Bree shared. If you're in the tech space and you did the boot camp thing, share your experiences and your thoughts around traditional education as well. I'm just, we just have to be intentional, like Bree has been, to really bridge the division and the gap and to drive inclusivity in every industry that's out there. But you guys know me, you know me very well. I always say we own that, right? So, and what Bree is sharing is we have to be properly prepared, and then we show up and be the person that somebody's looking for because they'll find us. Girl, I love that
They
quote.
will find us.
Yes, I love it. Take care, Bree. It
Thank
was a
you so much,
pleasure.
Linda, for having me on. This was so much fun. Thank you, everyone.
Bye bye.